The morning broke like both a blessing and a curse. The warmth of the sun was welcome after a night of bitter cold, but it also meant the hunt would begin. Rur's team would need confirmation of her death, and if they found no body, they would go searching. Nora had repositioned herself twice during the night, ignoring her body's protests. Pain was just information, and information could be processed and filed away. She had learned that in places where weakness killed faster than bullets. Her current position was a shallow cave, really just a rock overhang, but it offered cover and a good view of the valley below. Through her cracked but functional binoculars, she watched the Blackhawk return and circle over the river like a vulture. It hovered near her impact point, and she could imagine the conversation inside: confusion, concern, the growing realization that they hadn't found a body. The helicopter landed on a flat stretch of riverbank. 5 figures disembarked and spread out in a search pattern. Even from a distance, she recognized Rur's unmistakable gait: predatory, confident. They were armed for war, not for a rescue, which told her everything about their intentions. Her rifle had survived the fall, protected by its case and her own body. She had stripped and cleaned it during the night, in the dark, by feel. Now she took up a firing position, using a fallen log to brace her injured shoulder. The distance was extreme, nearly 800 meters, and with her injuries she might manage one good shot before the recoil became unbearable. But one shot could change everything. She watched the search, patient as stone. They were good, she had to give them that: professional movements, overlapping fields of fire, textbook small unit tactics. But they were also arrogant, assuming they were hunting a corpse, not a survivor. One of them, probably Sergeant Briggs, stopped to drink from his canteen. A small thing, a human moment, but it meant he felt safe. That was his first mistake. Nora lined up the shot, correcting for wind, elevation, and the slight tremor in her hands from cold and pain. The calculation ran automatically, burned into her muscle memory by thousands of hours on the range. Breathe in, breathe out, find the natural pause between heartbeats. She didn't shoot Briggs. That would have been expected, obvious. Instead she sent a bullet through Rur's radio antenna. The crack of the high-powered rifle echoed through the valley like thunder. The antenna exploded in a shower of sparking plastic, and 5 elite operators hit the ground as if their strings had been cut. The message was clear: I'm alive. I can reach you, and this is your only warning. For 10 seconds nothing moved but the river. Then Rur's voice carried across the valley, amplified by the mountain acoustics. King, I know that's you. She didn't answer, only watched through her scope as they scrambled for better cover. In the time it took to pull a trigger, hunters had become hunted. And the psychology of that reversal was more devastating than any bullet. We can sort this out, Rur called. It was just business. Nora smiled grimly. Everything was just business until someone started shooting back. She changed position, moving through the pain to a new spot. Rule 1 of sniper warfare: never fire from the same place twice. Her knee could barely hold her weight anymore, and black spots danced at the edges of her vision, but she had operated in worse shape. In Iraq she had finished a mission with a bullet in her hip. In Afghanistan's Paktika province she had walked 12 kilometers on a fractured fibula. Pain was temporary. Death was permanent. The Delta team was moving now, trying to flank her presumed position. Good tactics, but they were making another assumption: that she was trying to flee. They didn't understand that she wasn't running, she was hunting. Nora had spent 5 years learning every trail, every cave, every hidden path in these mountains. The locals called her the Ghost Runner, the American who appeared and vanished like morning mist. The same path smugglers used to move opium, she now used to move herself, always one step ahead of the Delta team, yet always visible enough to keep them following. She led them deeper into the valley, away from their helicopter, away from support. The pilot would slowly grow nervous, check his fuel, wonder why his passengers hadn't returned. Every passing minute brought someone closer to raising the alarm. At a narrow point on the trail, she had left a surprise. No explosive charge, nothing so obvious, a simple deadfall trap, the kind local hunters used. When Sergeant Cooper, bringing up the rear, tripped the trigger, a log swung down from above. He dodged it narrowly, but the motion sent him stumbling down a steep slope. Not fatal, but his ankle broke audibly on impact. Now there were only 4 of them, and they had to carry their wounded man. The math was getting worse for them by the hour. King, Rur's voice had lost its confident edge. This doesn't end well for you. Even if you make it back, who's going to believe you? 5 decorated Delta operators against a ranger with PTSD. You know how that plays out. He was right, of course, her word against theirs, assuming any of them survived to testify. But Nora wasn't planning on a he said she said resolution. She had something better in mind. Night fell again, bringing with it the cold that turned breath to vapor and fingers clumsy on triggers. The Delta team had made camp in a defensible position. Good elevated ground, clear fields of fire, rock formations for cover, professional to the last. But they had made one critical mistake. They camped near water, a small stream flowing down from higher ground. Water meant noise that masked movement, and it also meant predictable approach routes for anyone needing to drink. Nora waited until 0300, the dead hour when even alert guards struggled to keep their eyes open. She had spent the day gathering what she needed, not weapons, but information. A salvaged radio from an old Taliban cache, damaged but functional enough to receive. Batteries from the same cache, and most importantly, a small digital recorder she always carried, which had survived the fall in its waterproof housing. She couldn't transmit on the damaged radio, but she could listen, and what she heard confirmed her suspicions. Rur's team was using an encrypted frequency, but encryption didn't matter when she could hear his side of the conversation. The package is still active, Rur said. Requesting immediate extraction and QRF support. Yes, sir. Understood about the complications. No, sir, we can't confirm the elimination. Copy. Clean up and extract. Clean up. Military jargon for leave no evidence, no witnesses. They wouldn't just want to kill her now. They'd want to erase every trace that she had ever been here. But Nora had an advantage they knew nothing about. 3 nights earlier, she had cached supplies in these mountains, standard procedure for extended reconnaissance missions. Extra ammunition, medical supplies, and most importantly, a satellite phone with a fully charged battery. The cache sat 2 kilometers away, behind the Delta team's position. To reach it, she'd have to go through them, not around them. Most people would have called that impossible. Nora called it Tuesday. She moved like water, like shadow, like the ghost the locals believed her to be. Every step calculated, every breath controlled. Her injuries screamed with each movement, but pain was only the body's opinion, and she didn't have to listen to it. The Delta team had posted 2 guards, Briggs to the north, Matthews to the south. Good positioning, overlapping observation fields, but they were watching for someone trying to flee, not someone trying to get in. Nora crawled on her stomach through their security perimeter, slow enough that motion sensors wouldn't catch her, quiet enough that not even the mountain mice fled. It took her an hour to cover 50 meters. But patience was a sniper's first virtue. She got close enough to Briggs to hear his breathing, to see the steam of his exhale in the cold air. Her hand found a perfectly shaped stone, and she tossed it into the darkness behind him. The sound was small but distinct, and his head snapped around, his rifle following the noise. In that moment of distraction, she slipped past him, into the camp itself. Rur and the others slept, trusting their guards. She could have killed them all. Throats cut, quick and silent, but death would have been too easy, too clean. She wanted them to face justice, wanted their betrayal exposed. Instead she found what she was looking for. Rur's satellite phone, charging on a portable battery. She couldn't take it. They'd notice immediately, but she could use it. Her fingers flew over the keypad, sending a coded message to the one person she trusted. Kim would get the message when he woke. Coordinates, situation report, request for support. More importantly, he'd know to check the emergency cache, where she was about to leave the digital recording of Rur's confession. Mission complete. She began her withdrawal, but as she passed Rur's sleeping form, his eyes opened. For one frozen moment they stared at each other in the dark. His hand moved toward his weapon. Nora's knife was faster. Not a killing blow, she drove it through his hand, pinning it to the ground. His scream woke the camp, but she was already moving, vanishing into the darkness as lights flared and voices shouted, "Find her!" Rur roared, yanking the knife free with a sound half pain, half fury. "Find her now! But finding a ghost in mountains that belonged to her was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Nora reached her cache as dawn painted the peaks orange and gold. The satellite phone connected on the first try. "Danny," she said when Kim answered, his sleep-thick voice instantly sharp at the sound of hers. "I need you to listen very carefully. Record this conversation." She told him everything. The trap, the murder attempt, the confession she had recorded. As she spoke, she could hear helicopters in the distance, several aircraft closing fast. Rescue or execution, depending on who arrived first. "Nora, stay where you are," Kim said. "Harrison is mobilizing everyone. We're coming for you." "Negative. I'm finishing this here." She drew her emergency flare gun, loaded a round. "Just make sure the recording gets to Sid. Whatever happens next, I want the truth on record." The helicopters were closer now. She could see them. 2 Blackhawks and an Apache escort. But whose helicopters? She'd find out soon enough. Nora fired the flare straight up into the sky. A bright red star hanging in the morning sun like a challenge. "Here I am. Come and get me." The first Blackhawk banked sharply toward her position. Through her binoculars she saw the door gunner, weapon trained on her position. But behind him she saw something that made her smile, Kim's face. And beside him, Major Harrison, looking like he wanted to kill someone. The second Blackhawk flew toward Rur's position. She could imagine the radio chatter, accusations, denials, demands for evidence. But the evidence was already uploaded to secure servers. Kim had worked his technical magic from the helicopter. Already, the Apache circled above, a predator deciding which prey to strike. In the end it would come down to evidence, testimony, and the kind of political maneuvering that happened far above her pay grade. But as the first Blackhawk touched down on the ridge and Kim jumped out, running toward her, Nora knew she had already won the only victory that mattered. She had survived impossible odds, survived betrayal and gravity and the cold math of terminal velocity. She had survived. "Damn it, Nora," Kim said, taking in her injuries, the makeshift sling, the obvious concussion, the way she held herself to protect broken ribs. "How are you even standing?" "Rangers don't quit," she said simply. "We don't die easy, either." Behind them she heard shouting from Rur's position, the sounds of an arrest. The Delta team would face court-martial, charges of conspiracy, attempted murder, their careers over, their reputations destroyed. But when the medics approached with a stretcher, Nora waved them off. "I'll walk," she said, though every step sent lightning through her body. "I jumped out of a helicopter from 2,400 meters. I can make it to the bird." Harrison walked beside her, his expression unreadable. "King, what you did, surviving that fall, that's impossible." "No, sir," she replied, wincing as her knee threatened to give out. "It's just highly improbable. There's a difference. The physics alone, physics is just math, sir. And I was always good at math." She paused at the helicopter door, looking back at the mountains that had nearly become her grave. "Besides, Rangers don't need parachutes. We just need the will to survive and the knowledge of how to fall." As the Blackhawk lifted off, carrying her toward medical care and the inevitable inquiry, Nora allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Rur and his team had thrown her from a helicopter, expecting her to die screaming in the dark. Instead, she had turned their murder attempt into his confession, their trap into his prison. The recorder in her pocket held it all: his admission of guilt, his ties to the smuggling networks, his willingness to kill a fellow soldier for money. Combined with the physical evidence and Kim's technical surveillance, it would be more than enough for a conviction. 3 weeks later, Nora stood in the same briefing room where it had all begun. Her shoulder was still healing, her ribs still tender, but she was back in uniform. The investigation had been thorough, the evidence overwhelming. Rur and his team were facing life sentences in military prison. Staff Sergeant King, General Morrison, commander of JSOC, addressed her from the podium. "What you survived defies explanation. The fall alone should have killed you. The injuries should have incapacitated you. The pursuit should have finished you off. And yet here you stand. Rangers lead the way, sir," she answered, the motto carrying new weight after everything. "Indeed they do." He held up a file. "Which is why I'm offering you a choice. Full medical retirement with honors, or a new assignment." There's a unit that could use someone with your particular combination of skills and sheer refusal to die. What kind of unit, sir? Morrison smiled. I had a feeling you'd ask that. Report to Fort Bragg, Building 9. Someone will meet you there. As Nora left the briefing room, Kim caught up with her in the hallway. So, medical retirement or secret assignment? What do you think? He laughed. I think they threw you out of a helicopter and you turned it into a promotion. I think you're physically incapable of taking the easy path. The easy path is boring, Nora replied, then winced as her ribs reminded her that the hard path had its price. Besides, somebody has to keep proving Rangers don't need parachutes. That's not actually true, you know. The fall could have killed you. Should have killed you. Nora stopped, turning to face him. Danny, they threw me out of a helicopter from 2,400 meters because I was too good at my job. They betrayed everything we stand for, out of greed. The fall didn't kill me because I refused to let their betrayal become the end of my story. She kept walking down the hallway, each step still painful but growing stronger. Rangers don't quit, Danny. We don't quit when we're tired. We don't quit when we're hurt. And we sure as hell don't quit just because someone throws us out of a helicopter. So what do we do now? Nora smiled, the expression sharp as a blade. We survive, we adapt, we overcome, and then we make sure they regret ever thinking we were just a problem to be eliminated. Behind them the sun set over Fort Bragg, painting the sky in colors of blood and gold. Somewhere in the military prison, 5 former Delta Force operators were learning that betraying a Ranger wasn't just a mistake. It was a lesson in physics about how far someone could fall and still come back stronger. And somewhere in Building 9, a new kind of unit was about to gain its most unconventional member, a woman who had fallen 2,400 meters without a parachute and survived to tell the story.